Kelly came into my life, I guess, 10 years ago-ish, and she has been a powerful presence in my life ever since she came into it.
Have you ever realized that sometimes the strongest people are the ones everyone assumes are about to fall apart? For years, the public watched Kelly Clarkson through headlines about divorce, courtroom battles, shocking weight loss, and emotional interviews. Many believed they were witnessing the slow collapse of another Hollywood success story. Even some of the people closest to her quietly wondered how much more she could possibly take. One of those people was Blake Shelton. After nearly 2 decades of friendship, from the stages of Nashville to years sitting beside each other on The Voice, Blake has finally admitted something that completely changed the way he sees Kelly Clarkson. He confessed that there was a time when he genuinely believed she might not survive the emotional storm that surrounded her life. But he was wrong. Instead of breaking, Kelly became stronger than anyone expected. And according to Blake, the woman many people saw as America's sweetheart was actually one of the toughest people Nashville has ever produced. The surprising part: that strength didn't suddenly appear during her divorce. It had been forged decades earlier through heartbreak, rejection, betrayal, and battles that most fans never even knew existed. Today we're uncovering the story behind Blake Shelton's emotional confession, why Kelly walked away from one of television's biggest daytime shows at the height of its success, and how a lifetime of painful experiences transformed her into someone even her closest friends underestimated. Because once you know everything that happened behind the cameras, you'll never look at Kelly Clarkson the same way again. When news broke that the Kelly Clarkson Show would be ending after its 7th season, the entertainment world immediately started asking questions. How could someone willingly walk away from one of daytime television's biggest success stories? The show had collected Emmy Awards. Ratings remained strong. Kelly had become one of television's most beloved hosts. From the outside, it looked like she was leaving at the absolute peak of her career. Hollywood almost never rewards people with a chance to leave on top. Most careers fade away long before that opportunity ever comes. So why would Kelly choose to step away now? Many assumed there had to be a hidden scandal. Others believed burnout had finally caught up with her. But Kelly's explanation was surprisingly simple. Nothing mattered more than being present for her children. After spending years balancing music, television, touring, business commitments, and endless public attention, she realized there was one thing success could never buy back: time. Every hour spent filming another episode was another hour she couldn't spend watching her children grow up. For Kelly, that realization outweighed every award, every paycheck, and every career milestone. To many people, it sounded like a difficult decision. To Blake Shelton, it sounded exactly like the Kelly Clarkson he had known all along. Because behind the cameras, Blake had witnessed something the public never fully understood. He had watched Kelly survive years of pressure without ever allowing fame to change who she really was. In fact, he later admitted there was one period in particular when he secretly feared everything was about to come crashing down. Around 2020, Kelly's personal life seemed to explode overnight. Her marriage was ending. Painful legal battles were beginning. Every tabloid suddenly had an opinion. Every television show discussed her private life. It wasn't simply a celebrity divorce anymore. It became public entertainment. Blake later revealed that during those months, he honestly worried about her. Not because she lacked talent. Not because she wasn't successful. But because she cared so deeply. He knew Kelly wasn't someone who could easily separate public criticism from personal pain. Behind the smile audiences saw on television was someone carrying an emotional weight that very few people could understand. He expected the pressure to eventually overwhelm her. Instead, something completely different happened. Kelly kept showing up. She continued filming. She kept mentoring contestants. She kept making people laugh. She kept singing. And somehow, while the world waited to see her fall apart, she quietly refused to break. Looking back, Blake admitted he had underestimated her completely. He realized the woman everyone viewed as gentle and emotional possessed an incredible level of resilience. He even described her as one of the toughest people he'd ever known. But where did that strength actually come from? It certainly didn't begin during her divorce. To understand that, we have to rewind long before American Idol, before Grammy Awards, before television fame, before Blake Shelton ever entered her life. The real story begins in Texas. And it starts with a little girl learning one of life's hardest lessons far too early. Kelly Clarkson's childhood wasn't built on stability. It was built on separation. When her parents divorced, the family didn't simply split emotionally. The children were physically separated as well. Her brother went one direction. Her sister went another. Kelly stayed with her mother. Imagine being a child and suddenly realizing your family would never exist the same way again. Those early experiences left scars that never completely disappeared. Years later, Kelly would admit that many of her most emotional songs were born from those childhood memories. Long before millions of people heard her powerful voice, she was simply trying to make sense of heartbreak. Ironically, music entered her life almost by accident. One day, a choir teacher heard Kelly singing casually in a school hallway. There was something different about her voice. Not just power. Emotion. Honesty. The kind of voice that makes people stop whatever they're doing. That single moment changed everything. But discovering talent didn't magically solve life's problems. Before becoming a household name, Kelly worked ordinary jobs just to survive. She waited tables. She worked at a movie theater. She took whatever work she could find while chasing a dream that still seemed impossible. Like countless aspiring singers, she faced constant rejection. Most people would have quit. Kelly didn't. Then came 2002. A brand new television competition called American Idol was searching for contestants. Nobody knew the show would become a cultural phenomenon. Nobody knew its very first winner would become one of the biggest voices of her generation. Kelly entered as an unknown 20-year-old from Texas. She walked onto that stage carrying years of disappointment, uncertainty, and hope. Week after week, audiences connected with something beyond her voice. She didn't sound manufactured. She sounded real. When she finally won the competition, it looked like the perfect Hollywood ending. The struggling waitress had become an overnight superstar. Except, that wasn't the ending at all. It was actually the beginning of an entirely different battle. Because once the cameras stopped rolling, Kelly discovered that winning American Idol didn't automatically mean creative freedom. Instead, she found herself fighting an entirely new opponent. The music industry itself. And the man standing at the center of that battle would become one of the most powerful executives in the business. Someone who believed Kelly Clarkson knew how to sing, but not how to create her own music. That confrontation would leave Kelly in tears. But it would also reveal the stubborn determination that Blake Shelton would one day admire more than anything else. And that battle changed the entire course of her career. The battle Kelly faced after American Idol wasn't about singing. It was about control. Winning the biggest talent competition in America gave her fame overnight, but it also placed her inside an industry where powerful executives believed they knew exactly what kind of artist she should become. Kelly had other ideas. Almost immediately, disagreements began behind closed doors. Record executives questioned her songwriting. They doubted her instincts. Some even believed audiences only wanted the American Idol winner, not an artist capable of writing deeply personal music. For Kelly, those conversations were devastating. She later recalled sitting in meetings where her own songs were dismissed before anyone truly gave them a chance. One song in particular became the center of the conflict. Because of You. Today it's considered one of the defining songs of her career. But at the time, some influential voices believed it should never be released. Kelly fought anyway. She refused to let someone else decide which parts of her story deserved to be heard. That wasn't simply a business decision. It was personal. The song carried pieces of her childhood, her family's breakup, and emotional wounds she'd carried for years. Giving up on it would have meant giving up part of herself. Eventually, she won. And when Because of You became a worldwide hit, it proved something that would define her entire career. Kelly Clarkson wasn't interested in following every instruction. She wanted to tell the truth, even if that truth made powerful people uncomfortable. That same determination surfaced again a few years later. By 2007, Kelly wanted to release an album unlike anything she'd done before. It was darker, more emotional, more honest. The project eventually became My December. Industry executives hated the idea. Some reports claimed she was even offered millions of dollars to abandon the album entirely and record something more commercial instead. For many artists, that would have been an easy decision. Take the money. Protect your career. Move on. Kelly chose the harder path. She kept the album exactly the way she wanted. Commercially, it wasn't her biggest success. But creatively, it became one of the boldest statements of her career. She'd rather lose sales than lose herself. Years later, Blake Shelton would say that stubborn streak was exactly what made Kelly different from so many other stars in Nashville. She wasn't chasing approval. She was protecting her identity. Ironically, the next battle wouldn't come from the music industry at all. It would come from the people she trusted the most. By 2012, Kelly Clarkson believed she'd finally found stability. She began dating Brandon Blackstock. Everything about the relationship seemed safe, comfortable, familiar. Brandon wasn't a stranger to her world. His family had deep roots in country music. His father had managed some of the biggest names in Nashville, including Blake Shelton himself. The connection brought everyone even closer together. Blake wasn't just a friend anymore. He became almost like family. In fact, he openly joked about encouraging Brandon to propose. When Kelly and Brandon married in 2013, it genuinely looked like a happy ending. Soon afterward, they welcomed 2 beautiful children. From the outside, life appeared perfect. But behind the scenes, something much more complicated was quietly developing. Kelly eventually made a decision that would later become one of the biggest turning points of her life. She allowed her husband to manage her career. At first, it seemed logical. Who better to protect your interests than someone who loves you? Business and family became completely intertwined. Contracts, negotiations, financial decisions. Everything flowed through the same trusted circle. Kelly focused on performing. Others handled the business. She believed she'd finally found people she could depend on without question. Looking back now, that trust came at an enormous cost. According to Blake, he slowly began noticing changes. Kelly worked constantly. Television, recording, touring, appearances, commercial projects. The schedule never seemed to end. She always smiled in public. She always remained professional. But close friends could see the exhaustion beginning to show. Behind every success was someone carrying an impossible amount of responsibility. Then came The Voice. When Kelly joined the show in 2018, fans instantly loved the chemistry between her and Blake Shelton. Their playful arguments became one of the biggest reasons audiences tuned in every week. They teased each other relentlessly, competed over contestants, turned every episode into entertaining television. It looked effortless. But while millions laughed at their friendly rivalry, Kelly was quietly fighting battles no one could see. Because outside the studio, her marriage was beginning to collapse. Then everything changed. In 2020, Kelly filed for divorce. Suddenly, every private struggle became front-page news. The cheerful television host audiences knew was now facing one of the most painful chapters of her life. The legal battle stretched far beyond ending a marriage. Financial disputes emerged. Management disagreements surfaced. Questions about commissions and business dealings entered the courtroom. Years of trust were suddenly being examined piece by piece. For Blake Shelton, it created an impossible situation. Brandon wasn't just Kelly's husband. He'd also been Blake's longtime manager. Professionally, their lives had been connected for years. Personally, Kelly had become like family. Blake found himself caught between loyalty and friendship. In the end, those close to the situation noticed him quietly standing beside Kelly, not through dramatic public speeches, but through steady private support. While the headlines focused on courtroom drama, Kelly did something remarkable. She kept working. Every morning she walked onto the set of the Kelly Clarkson Show. She laughed with guests. She inspired audiences. She made everything appear normal. Few viewers realized how much emotional pain she carried once the cameras stopped rolling. Eventually, legal rulings began shifting in Kelly's favor. Investigations into management commissions resulted in significant financial decisions that helped her regain control over her career. More importantly, she reclaimed something money could never replace: her independence. The chapter that began with complete trust finally ended with complete freedom. After years of emotional turmoil, Kelly made another life-changing decision. She left Los Angeles behind. Instead of remaining surrounded by painful memories, she moved to New York with her children. For many celebrities, relocating across the country would simply be a change of address. For Kelly, it represented something much bigger: a fresh beginning, a chance to rebuild life on her own terms. Fans also noticed another dramatic change. Kelly looked healthier, more energetic, more confident. As always, the internet rushed to create its own explanations. Rumors spread everywhere. Kelly eventually addressed the speculation herself, explaining that her health journey came after medical advice and major lifestyle changes, not the sensational stories circulating online. But the biggest transformation wasn't physical. It was emotional. In 2023, she released Chemistry, perhaps the most personal album she'd ever recorded. The songs didn't simply describe heartbreak. They documented survival. Blake later admitted that listening to parts of the album wasn't easy. Not because the music wasn't beautiful, but because he personally knew the painful memories hidden inside those lyrics. For him, every song reminded him of what his longtime friend had quietly endured while the rest of the world only saw headlines. And perhaps that's why Blake's recent confession resonated with so many people. He didn't praise Kelly because she won awards, or because she sold millions of albums, or because she became a successful television host. He admired her because she refused to let heartbreak define her. Every setback became another reason to keep moving. Every betrayal taught her another lesson about protecting herself. Every obstacle strengthened the person she eventually became. Which brings us back to the question we started with. Why would Kelly Clarkson willingly walk away from one of television's biggest success stories? Because after spending years fighting for her career, then fighting for her marriage, then fighting for her independence, she finally realized there was one battle she never wanted to lose: being present for her children. To some people, walking away looked like giving something up. To Kelly, it looked like finally taking control of her own life. And maybe that's the biggest lesson Blake Shelton learned after watching her journey for nearly 20 years. Real strength isn't measured by how loudly someone fights. Sometimes, it's measured by knowing exactly when to walk away. If Kelly Clarkson's journey inspired you, let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy stories that reveal the truth behind Hollywood's biggest headlines, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives just like this.